Good morning and welcome to Daily Red Devil. Lots and lots to get into on the show this morning. But before we get into that, please do me a small favour. Subscribe to the channel if you are new, bottom right-hand corner. And make sure to drop a like on this episode. Let's try and see 500 likes today. Right, so I'm going to jump straight on into it then. We're not going to mess around. And we're going to talk about Victor Osimhen. Now, what I would like to know from you this morning is, should Manchester United sign Victor Osimhen? Is he the answer for Manchester United's goal-scoring problems? I'll get a little poll set up for those of you who are watching the show live. If you're watching the show back on repeat, obviously you can't get involved in the poll, so you'll have to let me know in the comment section. So the question is this: is Victor Osimhen the answer to United's goal-scoring problems? Let me know. And if you don't think he is, get in the comment section and let me know who you think it is. I mean, the alternative is obviously Gyökeres. That's the most kind of trendy, likely option at the moment. But let's bring you the news that we've received this morning in relation to Victor Osimhen. So this is coming out from the player's agent directly. So this isn't like a rumor. This is literally coming from the mouth of Victor Osimhen's agent. So he says Victor will move. He may wear the red colours in England. There are moves already taking place, and it is what he wants. I mean, that is kind of vague, but also kind of specific at the same time, isn't it? Let me just read that again for you. So this is Victor Osimhen's agent. Victor Osimhen will move. He may wear the red colours in England, obviously referring to Manchester United. And he says, there are moves already taking place, and it is what Osimhen wants. Interesting. Very, very interesting indeed. Now, we know that he's going to leave Napoli, so that's not really breaking news, is it? You know, the fact that his agent said that it's what he wants, because we know that Napoli and Victor Osimhen relationship is over. You know, obviously he's on loan in the Turkish league at the moment at Galatasaray, but they can't afford to keep him on a permanent deal. I think his release clause is about £60 million. Galatasaray obviously can't afford that type of money. His loan there, I think, expires in the summer, but there is some sort of January clause where if a club wants to come in and buy him in January, then obviously he would leave Galatasaray. Now, is this Victor Osimhen's agent just adding some fuel to the fire, trying to create a bit of hype? Probably. I think unless Marcus Rashford is going to move to Napoli, which has been spoken about in the last couple of days, then I don't really see how this deal could happen. You know, it's a very, very complex deal to get over the line. Obviously, two very, very expensive players, two players on very big wages, and two players who are going to completely dominate the transfer window by way of headlines, by way of tabloid newspapers, by way of gossip columns. You know, these are probably going to be, if this deal was to happen, it would be one of the biggest January transfers in the last 10 years, you know, because usually, generally, big transfers don't happen in January. I know we signed Bruno, or was it 3 or 4 years ago? There's been a couple of big deals happen in January in the past, but usually it happens in the summer. So if Victor Osimhen was to join Manchester United in January, it would be a massive, massive story. Do I think it will happen? I don't think so, personally. I don't. I honestly think what's going to end up happening, right, and this is probably going to not be the news you want to hear, but I'm going to give you my opinion anyway. I honestly think that Rashford will still be here come February the 1st, to be honest. I can't see him going anywhere. And the reason for that is not because Ruben Amorim wants to keep him, it's just because of how much of a difficult deal it is to do to get rid of Rashford in January, you know? And that's why, if anything, this Victor Osimhen deal is an option, because there's two players, both on big wages, both worth a substantial amount of money, and maybe a swap deal could happen. But like, no club's going to come in and give us 40-50 million for Rashford in cash in January. Like, it's just not going to happen. So that's why I think, you know, the likelihood of Rashford still being here in February when the transfer window ends is quite likely. I don't know. The biggest kind of fear for me, right, and take this with a pinch of salt, is, are Marcus Rashford's camp looking at this situation thinking Man United are 14th in the Premier League? We've lost 4 out of the last 5 Premier League games. The next 2 fixtures are Arsenal and Liverpool. Are they looking at the situation thinking, let's hold on until after January, let's see how the new manager does? Are they somewhat thinking that Ruben Amorim won't even be here come the summer? Now, obviously, I'm not saying this is what I want, but I mean, based on current form, if we continue to play the way we are and we continue to drop down the table and relegation becomes a genuine likelihood or strong possibility, I imagine that Man United would sack Ruben Amorim, because realistically, they're not going to allow relegation to happen. Now, I hope this doesn't happen, obviously. I'm fully behind Ruben Amorim. Even if we were to lose the next 5 games, I'll be fully behind Ruben Amorim. He is the right man for me, and I will back him. But I'm just looking at it from a Marcus Rashford's perspective and from his camp. He's been dropped out of the team, right? And we have got worse. So but just to be clear as well, I'm not saying that Marcus Rashford's the answer. I'm just saying, if I'm Marcus Rashford and I'm looking at the fixtures, we know what these players are like, effectively. We know how many managers have been sacked over the years, and these players still seem to hang on. He's still got 3 years left of his contract. You look at our next 3 fixtures, you've got Liverpool away, Arsenal away, and then Brighton at home. I mean, we could easily lose all 3 of those games. Easy. And then after that, we've got Fulham away. I mean, I think we'll probably lose that, to be honest. We've got Rangers at home, which I imagine will win, but you never know. And we've got FCSB in the Champions League. But our next kind of 3 or 4 Premier League games are Liverpool away, Brighton at home, Fulham away, Crystal Palace at home, and Tottenham away. I mean, out of those 5 fixtures, right? Liverpool, I think we'll lose. Brighton, I think we'll be lucky to get a draw. Fulham away, I think we'll lose. Crystal Palace at home, I mean, you'd hope that we'd be able to win that one, but who knows? Tottenham away, I think we'll lose. So if you look at those kind of next 15 points that are up for grabs, right? I'm saying 0 points against Liverpool, 1 point against Brighton, maybe. I don't think we'll get any points against Fulham away from home, so that's no points there. Hopefully 3 points against Crystal Palace, that would be 4 points, and I don't think we'll get any points away to Tottenham. So out of the next 5 Premier League games, if I was to predict the kind of, the scores, the results, all the rest of it, and effectively predict how many points we'd pick up, I would say 4 points out of 15 is probably realistic, And even after that, we play Everton away, who are in a relegation battle. Like, we could easily lose that as well. So, from the next 18 points available, we might get 4 points out of 18, which is, again, relegation form. So the point I'm making here is the reason why I don't think Rashford's going to go anywhere now is, 1, because I don't think anybody's going to pay the £50 million valuation that Man United have set on him. 2, nobody's going to want to give him 350k a week based on the fact that he's underperforming at Manchester United. And 3, I think him and the people around him will be watching this Ruben Amorim situation closely, thinking, is there a chance that Ineos pull the plug on him at some point? I mean, they pulled the plug on Ten Hag after giving him a new contract. 2 months later, they give him 200 million. Remember what happened in the summer. Eric Ten Hag got a new deal, 2-year extension. They gave him £200 million to spend, and they sacked him 2 months later. So just because Ruben Amorim has been given this long contract, it's not even a long contract. I think it's like a 2-year contract he's on, or a 2.5-year contract. So I don't know. I just had this thought this morning that, maybe Marcus Rashford is just thinking, I'll just hold on. I'll wait and see what happens. Let's stay here till the end of January. He's still collecting his 350k a week wages. He's not having to play. He's just, probably going into training, putting in a half-assed attempt every day. Like, do you know what I mean? But I'd be interested to see what you guys all think about my theory. Do you think Marcus Rashford will still be here on February the 1st? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. What have we got in the chat? Let's have a look. Any comments coming in today? So far, 69% of people watching the video today think that Osimhen would be the answer, and only 31% of you think he wouldn't. So, interesting. What else have we got in the chat? Let's have a little look. But somebody says in the chat, regardless of what happens to Ruben Amorim, Marcus Rashford is finished at this club. The fans have had enough of him. Yeah, I agree. I agree with you. But at the same time, he's on 350k a week on a legal contract for 4 more years. If Man United want to buy him out of his contract, it will cost about £80 million. We can't even afford to give the stewards a £50 Christmas bonus. Like, it's not as simple as just saying, oh, let's get rid of Rashford. You can only get rid of Rashford if someone's willing to match his wage and to give Manchester United a transfer fee. And at the moment, it doesn't look like that's going to happen, to be honest with you. And just to be clear as well, I'm not being negative here. I'm just being realistic. We're 14th in the Premier League. We've got some difficult fixtures coming up. Liverpool, Arsenal, Brighton, Fulham away, and Tottenham away. I mean, none of those fixtures are easy. We're not the Manchester United of old where, you look at these fixtures and you go, oh, we could win every one of them. You look at those fixtures and think we could lose every one of them because we're 14th in the Premier League, closer to the relegation zone than we are to the top four. That's why, I've brought that theory. But my hope would always be that even if Man United, finished 18th, 9th, 17th, 16th, whatever, that they would realise that the problem are the players and not the manager, because but yeah, just to be very, very clear, I'm fully behind Ruben Amorim. He is the right man for the job for me, no doubt about it. I'm just saying from a player's perspective, people like Casemiro, people like Marcus Rashford, they might just be sat there thinking, oh, maybe we can just hang on, maybe another manager will get sacked and we'll still be here. Because at the end of the day, you can't sack players. I mean, you can, but it never happens, ever. Because imagine if you were to sack Casemiro and Rashford, you'd have to give Rashford about 80 million and Casemiro about 20 million. It just won't happen. Whereas with managers, it's slightly different, isn't it? They can give them, they can pay them off to leave. Whereas with players, it just doesn't happen like that. So these players generally at Manchester United over the years have survived all these managers because it's not logistically possible to just sack your whole team. But yeah. What else have we got today? Lumen says, Kieran, fans were done with Maguire, yet he's now getting a new year extension. I don't really have a problem with Maguire getting a new 1 year extension, to be honest with you. I spoke about this on the show yesterday. I think when you look at the situation we're in, the fact that we have just as little spending power as we did when the Glazers were running the football side of the club, we are being told that we need to sell to buy. And the fact of the matter is, we have 3 players in the centre-back position who are out of contract in the summer. Johnny Evans, Lindelof and Maguire, right? We've brought in a manager who plays 3 centre-backs. Previously, we had a manager who played 2 centre-backs. So realistically now, we probably need at least 6 centre-backs in our squad, right? You need 3 first-teamers and then 3 kind of rotational options. And come the summer, the only centre-backs we'll have would be Lenny Yoro, De Ligt and Martinez, right? Because Maguire, Lindelof and Johnny Evans are all out of contract. So could we really sign 3 centre-backs in one window? No. So the most logical thing for Manchester United to do is to give Maguire this 1 year extension. So your centre-backs are then Maguire, De Ligt, Martinez and Lenny Yoro, right? You then promote Goodwill Kokoni from the youth team. That gives you 5 centre-backs, and then you go and sign like a world-class centre-back, and that means you then have 6 centre-backs. So I can see why they did it, because when you look at our squad and when you look at the balance of our squad, losing 3 centre-backs in one window, yes, some of them are past it. Yes, some of them are not the best anymore. Fine, I get that. Johnny Evans should probably retire. Lindelof's been awful for the past 5 years and injured all the time. Maguire isn't world class, but I think he does do well in the back 5, to be fair. I actually think what they've done is the most logical thing, because where are we going to find the money to buy 3 new centre-backs from? Where? Someone tell me. If we're not going to get a transfer fee for Maguire, Lindelof or Evans, how are we suddenly going to then go and buy 3 more centre-backs when we can't even buy any players in January when we're sat 14th in the Premier League? We're being told we need to sell to buy, okay? Well, you're not going to get any money for Lindelof. He's out of contract. You're not going to get any money for Evans or Maguire. They're both out of contract. So this whole narrative that, oh, it's a disgrace, Maguire's not good enough, why has he got a new deal? Maybe he's not good enough. I actually think he's okay. I don't think he's amazing, but he's not terrible, right? But yeah, I can understand why people who don't really properly think about the circumstances of the club are frustrated about the situation, because they expect us to go and sign 3 world-class centre-backs in one window, as well as a striker, a left-back, a right-back, a midfield. It just doesn't work like that. We need to sell to buy. Even in the summer, right? Our net spend wasn't very much, and that was in the summer window. There's this narrative floating around in the media, oh, Man United have spent this much. But they only ever give you the amount they've spent. They never give you the net spend, because net spend is the most important thing, really. It doesn't really matter. If you spend 200 million, but you sell 200 million pounds worth of players, then your net spend is 0. But the media generally only focus on net spend. So in the summer, they'll say, oh, Eric Ten Hag spent 200 million, right? When really, Eric Ten Hag spent, let me just get it up for you here. And they won't tell you this because it doesn't create as much of a headline. So in the summer, Eric Ten Hag actually spent £85 million in the summer just gone. Net. And that's the figure you need to look at. We sold £103 million worth of players and we bought just over £200 million worth of players. So overall, our net spend was £85 million in the summer, you know? And that's the point of the matter here. Like, for us to be able to buy players now, we need to sell players. It was the same in the summer. We needed to sell to buy. We sold Mason Greenwood. We sold Wan-Bissaka. We sold McTominay. Remember as well, the interesting thing here is that obviously we'll get some money for Jadon Sancho in the summer, so that's decent. But yeah, so that's my take on that. I'm not that bothered that Maguire's staying for one more year. David says Maguire has more professional approach than the other players and has withstood a lot of criticism. Yeah, I think the way Maguire's handled himself has been absolutely incredible, to be honest. I really do. I'm impressed with what he's done. But yeah, let's move on to just a quick one, actually. We've got over 500 people watching live now, which is absolutely amazing. I've set a likes target of 500 for this episode. So if you could do me a little favor and like the video right now, that would be very much appreciated. And if this is your first time watching, don't forget to subscribe as well. I've just dropped a link into the chat to do that. We are just about to hit 40,200 subscribers. So go and do that right now. Let's try and get to that by the end of this video. We're only a couple away. So yeah, make sure you go and do that right now. But let's jump on over to Alvaro Fernandez, because there's some reports coming out this morning suggesting that Manchester United are considering triggering the buyback clause for Alvaro Fernandez. Now, how does everybody feel about this? Is he the solution to Manchester United's left wing-back problem? Let me know what you think in the comment section. I don't know. I think it's a risk. Obviously, we sold him in the summer for such a small amount of money. If we were then now to bring him back, it's a hard one. It's impossible to predict. Absolutely impossible to predict. So the buyback clause is around £16 million plus potential add-ons, which could take the deal up to £25 million. Obviously, he's done very, very well at Benfica. Let's not forget that. He's been absolutely phenomenal for Benfica this season, playing in the Champions League as well. So for those of you who are going to say, oh, it's the Portuguese league, it's not as good, blah, blah, blah. I get it. But at the same time, I think, if you've got a young player who's performing in the Champions League, you can't just be like, oh, he's playing in the Portuguese league, because he's playing in the best league in the world, the Champions League. But yeah, I don't know. I think my preference would probably be Nuno Mendes if I had to pick. But obviously Nuno Mendes is going to cost you more money, and he might not be available right now. Whereas obviously with Alvaro Fernandez, we have this buyback clause. We can literally trigger the buyback clause. That means that Benfica have to sell him to us. Obviously, the player still has to agree to come back. He might say, you know what, I'm really happy developing here. I don't think I'm ready to come back yet, which is a possibility. I mean, he only moved in July, remember. He's been there for like 6 months. He's gone back to his home country, playing for Benfica, playing in the Champions League, coming back to a team who are going to be sat in 14th, playing in the Europa League. Arguably, he'll probably earn a lot more money at Manchester United, which maybe is a consideration. And Alvaro Fernandez has always said that he would like to come back to Manchester United, and that his goal is to build up and then come back to Manchester United. So it'll be interesting to see how this one pans out. I think, if we were able to get him back, then I would obviously welcome it. I'm just not sure whether... what I don't understand is, if he wasn't ready for Manchester United in July, why is he suddenly ready for Manchester United in January? I mean, July, August, September, October, November. Like 5 months ago, he wasn't ready for Manchester United and they sold him for €6 million, right? And now, 5 months later, suddenly he's ready to start for Man United. It just doesn't really add up to me. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe he is. Maybe Ten Hag was wrong. Maybe, Ineos got it wrong in July. But it just seems a little bit strange, right? Think of it like this. So Omar Barada, Dan Ashworth, etc. decided in July, 5 months ago, that he wasn't good enough and he should leave. Okay? And now the same people 5 months later are deciding that he is good enough and he should come back. I just think it makes them look a bit stupid, to be honest. That if it was 2-3 years later, obviously I get it, you know? He'd gone away to Benfica, he was world class for Benfica, and then you buy him back in 2 or 3 years. Great, that makes a lot of sense. But for the same people who made the decision to get rid of him, 5 months later to decide that he's now good enough and to bring him back, like, it kind of confuses me a bit. Maybe they got it wrong, you know? But yeah. Happy birthday to Fred, by the way. I hope you're doing well, my friend. Fred's birthday today. I hope you're good. What are you up to today, my friend? Let me know. Let's have a look. Paul says, but Ten Hag was wrong about Ahmad. That's fair. But remember, it wasn't just Ten Hag who decided to sell players. It was Omar Barada, Dan Ashworth, Dave Brailsford, etc. It was that team who decided to sell Alvaro Fernandez, you know, and it's that team who's now going to decide to bring him back. So, yeah. Tiborg says it could just be because we've changed our system, though. That's a good point as well. Yeah, maybe he didn't suit the old system, and now he suits the new system. That's a good point. I hadn't really considered that. I guess things change, don't you? You've brought in a new Portuguese manager who plays a new style of play in a new system. So, yeah, things have changed. It's not the same situation as it was in July. New manager, new system. So, yeah. Sam says if Man United get relegated, they will lose their Adidas sponsorship. Yeah, I did hear that. I think it's worth £900 million as well, which is mental, isn't it? But, I mean, it makes sense. Why would Adidas want to give us £900 million to play in the Championship? They're not going to get relegated. They're not. I would be stunned if they got relegated. But that was the point I was making a couple of minutes ago. Like, are Marcus Rashford's camp looking at the situation, thinking, you know, like I just did, looking at the next 5 fixtures for Manchester United and thinking, it's only going to get worse from here. And maybe they're sat there thinking, we can just hang on here. We can stay at Manchester United, you know? Because if Ruben Amorim keeps losing, right, I want him to stay. I know, like, there's no doubt in my mind that he's the right man for the job. But based on what we've seen from Ineos so far, they don't seem to know what they're doing. They seem to be all over the place with their decisions. Would everyone agree on that? They've made wrong decision after wrong decision after wrong decision so far. I think, I honestly can barely think of one decision that they've made that's been right so far. I mean, Dan Ashworth I was excited about. They sack him after 2 months of work. They haven't appointed a new... Like, we don't need to go through the whole list of the things they've done wrong, but the reason that I brought up this story, and the reason that I said that, you know, the further Man United fall down the table, there's no way that Ruben Amorim's job can be safe. It just can't. It's impossible. If we go and beat Liverpool and we beat Brighton, like, great, you know, we're going to start moving up the table, amazing. But the reality of the matter is, when you look at our next kind of 5 Premier League fixtures, Liverpool away, Brighton at home, Southampton away, obviously we should win that one. Fulham away, Tottenham away. I mean, some very difficult fixtures there. And then when you go to the next batch, Everton away, Arsenal, Nottingham Forest away, Man City, I mean, like, and Newcastle away. It's going to be a very, very difficult end to the season. And I think the biggest thing for Manchester United is the progression into the Europa League. You know, that has to be the milestone. We have to go far in the Europa League. We've got 2 fixtures left in that competition, Rangers and FCSB, and we have to win both of those games. You know, there's no alternative. We need to go far in the Europa League. We're in pole position to do so at the moment. Obviously, at the moment, we are... Where are we in the table? We're 7th in the table at the moment. You know, I think if we were to beat Rangers at home in the next game, I think we would all but confirm that we'd qualify for the next stage of the competition. I mean, yeah, so fingers crossed. But let's see what else people are saying in the chat. Sino says his job should be safe. What's he meant to do with a team that United management themselves assessed as not fit for style in the summer? I agree with you 100%, just to say. I agree with you 150%. Right? But they make weird decisions. Ineos. They've done it in other sports as well. They did it with Formula One. You know, Lewis Hamilton and Mercedes were like the best, and then Ineos took over and they've been awful since. So, you know, their track record across everything is pretty questionable. And that's what I'm saying to you. Like, when you actually think about the situation, we are where we are because our team is of that quality. You know? But I think they are impulsive. And I think if we keep falling down the table, God knows what's going to happen. Somebody in the chat says the Nice fans warned us about Ratcliffe. Yeah, I mean, I don't think many people wanted Radcliffe. Somebody says, I thought Dan Ashworth resigned. No, Dan Ashworth didn't resign. It was brought out as mutual agreement, but it clearly wasn't. Apparently, Dan Ashworth fell out with Jim Ratcliffe. That was the, you know, that was the kind of the story that got put out there. So, yeah. Digital Sports Update said, what is the update on Dan Gore? Dan Gore looks like he's going to go out on loan, apparently, and so does Harry Amas. So, yeah, that's good. I'm happy about that. There's a little bit of breaking news coming out here about Marcus Rashford and why Ruben Amorim fell out with him. So this is coming out from Laurie Whitwell in The Athletic this morning. And the headline is this is about Marcus Rashford and Ruben Amorim. So Laurie Whitwell from The Athletic is reporting today that after the match against the Everton on December the 1st, Ruben Amorim learned that Marcus Rashford had gone out in Manchester on the evening of Friday, less than 48 hours before kickoff. Amorim does not want his players to come off so close to games and asked Rashford about it, who assured him he had been misinformed about the late exit. In the final training session before facing Manchester City, he gave a lacklustre performance, according to many sources, some of whom said he looked tired. There were rumours that he had been out the day before, with those close to the player denying it. I mean, it's just the same as it was before, isn't it? The stories coming out are that effectively Marcus Rashford is, you know, going out in the evening before games. I mean, you're a professional athlete, you're a professional football player, you're earning 350k a week, just stay home for the night. But then, it is difficult. It is difficult. I know that's like the easy answer to give, but he's a 27-year-old single man, multi-millionaire with 350k a week coming into his bank every week. Like, he's clearly not a family man. He doesn't have a partner. He doesn't have kids. Like, he's not settled down. Whereas if you look at most of our other players, you know, you look at Bruno, you look at Martinez, you even look at Garnacho. He's 20? He's got a wife and a child at the age of 20. Like, when you look at our squad, I would say most of our players have partners and have children, and, you know, and they're family people. They stay at home. They probably play games with their kids and they're in bed by 9, 10 o'clock. Whereas Marcus Rashford's this 27-year-old with 350 grand a week burning a hole in his pocket. So I'm not saying it makes it all right. I'm just saying I do, on a human level, I can understand why he's doing it, but it's not somebody who I want at Manchester United. You know, we don't want somebody who thinks that's all right. Does that make sense? Like, I'm not trying to justify it. I'm not trying to, like, back him up. I'm just saying that, you know, it would be a very different story if it was Marcus Rashford has 3 kids and he's going out clubbing before games. People would be like, what the hell is he doing? But the fact of the matter is he's probably just sat at home on his own, lonely, and wants to go out, and probably is using his money to make friends and stuff. And, you know, the people around him want to be around him because he's got money. So he's probably, it's a pretty sad situation for him, really. And I'm not on any level trying to back him up. I'm just saying that on a human level, you have to kind of understand where his headset is at. But the fact of the matter is that we do not want people at Manchester United with that headset. They need to go. But yeah, so that's effectively why he's been dropped. This is coming out from Laurie Whitwell, who obviously is, I would say, a tier 1 source around Manchester United, saying that the reason he hasn't been playing, the reason he hasn't been selected is because he's been going out again. Before the Everton game and before the Manchester City game. It's not good, is it? Not good at all. Michael says, what does the amount of money he has paid have to do with him going out? I'm not really sure what you mean there, my friend. The point I'm making is, every other player in our squad are family people. They have wives, they have partners, they have children, right? Marcus Rashford is a single man, 27 years of age, a multi-millionaire. What do you think he's going to be doing with his time? You know? And somebody as well in the chat saying, didn't he just break up with his girlfriend? Yeah, he just broke up with his girlfriend. I remember a couple of seasons ago, he had a long-term partner who he'd been with since he was a teenager, and they broke up. And I remember after that, his form fell off a cliff, you know? He's the kind of person who clearly needs to have that, like, have that family network around him, that a partner, a child. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, to have that home life set up. And it sounds like it isn't, because somebody who has a wife and a child isn't going, you know, you don't see Bruno Fernandez going out clubbing the day before a game, or you don't see Casemiro, or you don't see, you know, blah, 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 blah. So, I don't know. That's why we're in the that's why he's in the situation he is because effectively he is going out. You know, he's going out to Manchester. He's going out doing whatever. I don't know what he's doing. It doesn't say in the article, but we know before, you know, we know before that he's been going out clubbing. He's been going out to bars. Yeah. He's just not got the right attitude. He's not got the right mindset. So, yeah, it's a shame, really. Stefan says it's okay to go out if we're winning the title in Champions League. When battling for top 4 and we're 14th, he should be more mindful of his actions. But the thing is, right, I agree with you 100%, but until now, he's got away with it. Until now, he would maybe have to miss one game, whereas now Ruben Amorim's just like, I don't want you on my team. Goodbye. So up to this point, he's got away with it. Realistically. And Manchester United have facilitated him to get away with it. So as much as Marcus Rashford is to blame, obviously he is, Manchester United are also to blame here because they've put this guy on a pedestal. They've made out that he's this world-class player. They've given him 350k a week and they've allowed him to go out and do these stupid things without actually punishing him. And it's only now that Ruben Amorim's come in that he's been like, no, you're not in my team. I don't want I don't want players like you around here. If you're not going to take this seriously, you can go somewhere else. And that's how it should be. And hopefully he learns from it, you know, on a human level. Hopefully he goes to another club, whether it's Napoli, he goes there and he does well. You know, I don't wish bad on him. I just, like, I think, you know, Manchester United are just as much to blame as he is, because we've enabled and allowed him for the last 6-7 years to get away with this type of stuff. Straight after the Belfast thing, he should have been sold. Would you all agree? You know, he was out clubbing in Belfast until 4 a.m, the day before a game, when he was supposed to be in training. That should be it. You should be out. Never play for Manchester United again. But they didn't. Oh, we'll give him a 1-game suspension. He'll learn his lesson. He doesn't. And then he's just repeating it all over and over again. And as somebody says in the chat, like, it's not like he's going out on New Year's Eve with some friends once a year. Like, this is somebody going out. It doesn't say where, but it says in the evening. I mean, in the evening, you're going to restaurants, you're going to bars, you're going to clubs. You know, he's not going to a library to read a book, is he? You're going out on a weekday, a working day, before a game, to these types of places. Like, it's not good. I mean, this is a really good question. This is a really good comment, actually. And I like this type of input. So Ricardo says, if this story is true, which it will be, the person who's put this story out is Laurie Whitwell from The Athletic. He doesn't put out fake stories. He's not like, so it will be true, this story. He says, if this is true, he needs serious help. I would agree. I would 100% agree. But that serious help shouldn't be here. It should be somewhere else. Manchester United have tried to help him, and all they've done is enable him. So I agree with you that on a human level, Marcus Rashford clearly does need help. And that was why I was trying to say, you know, I feel bad for him in some way. But at the same time, like, he's burned his bridge now with us. Anyway, I'm going to wrap the video up here, guys. Thank you very much for watching the show today. Really appreciate it. Please do make sure to drop a like before you leave. We're trying to hit 500 likes on this video. And yeah, don't forget to subscribe as well. I will be live throughout the whole of the transfer window. So if this is your first time on the channel today, you're all welcome. Make sure to subscribe. I've just dropped a link into the chat to do that. And yeah, I'll speak to you all later. Bye for now.